The story begins in a world where royal life promised privilege but carried unimaginable dangers. Born as a princess, she was celebrated for her beauty, intelligence, and charm, yet from the very first day, her life was threatened. Political intrigue, jealous rivals, and power-hungry courtiers marked every step of her childhood. While other children played in palace gardens, she learned to recognize danger in smiles and betrayal in whispers. From attempted poisonings to secret plots, every day could have been her last. But against all odds, she survived, navigating a labyrinth of threats with cunning and resilience far beyond her years. Her story is one of survival, courage, and the relentless will to live in a court where loyalty was rare and betrayal commonplace. In uncovering her journey, we witness how a child, born into privilege, endured horrors that could have ended her life many times over, shaping her into a figure both extraordinary and unforgettable. She was born into opulence, her cradle surrounded by the finest silks, gilded toys, and the constant murmur of servants. Yet the gilded cage of royalty concealed dangers few could imagine. From her earliest days, the court was a battlefield of alliances and rivalries, where each smile could mask treachery and every gesture could be used against her. Tutors instructed her not just in reading, writing, and music, but in the subtle arts of perception and survival. She learned to watch faces for hidden intentions, to measure words carefully, and to respond with precision. The palace, though magnificent, was a labyrinth of intrigue. Each corridor seemed to whisper secrets, each banquet hall echoed with veiled threats. Even her playmates were trained in the art of courtly maneuvering, and she quickly realized that friendships were often conditional, fragile, and fleeting. Her parents, powerful monarchs themselves, were often absent or preoccupied, embroiled in politics, wars, or ceremonial duties, leaving her to navigate the dangerous currents of court life largely on her own. By the age of 5, she had witnessed events that would have broken the spirits of ordinary children. Courtiers fell from favor with terrifying speed, some vanishing mysteriously, others suffering humiliations or worse. She was subtly made aware that her life was never entirely safe. The smallest misstep could invite calamity. Guardians and attendants were chosen not only for loyalty, but for political expediency, and their affections could be shallow, motivated by ambition rather than care. Meals were occasions where allies could be cultivated or undermined, gifts could be traps, and conversations could conceal threats. She learned the language of warning, of reading the unspoken cues, a glance too long, a word omitted, a subtle gesture. These lessons, though harsh, were survival skills she could not do without. Her education extended beyond the classroom. She was trained in languages, history, and diplomacy, but also in observation, discretion, and subtle resistance. Stories of her ancestors' triumphs and tragedies were told not merely to inspire pride, but as cautionary tales, illustrating the deadly consequences of miscalculation. She grew to understand that intelligence alone could not protect her. Resilience, intuition, and cunning were equally crucial. By the time she reached her 8th birthday, the child princess who had been celebrated for her charm had transformed into a cautious observer, a strategist in miniature, always aware that every interaction carried risk. The court watched her grow with curiosity and suspicion, noting her poise, her cautious demeanor, and her ability to navigate delicate situations far beyond her years. What set her apart was not only her survival, but her ability to turn vulnerability into advantage. Against the constant threat of assassination, intrigue, and betrayal, she not only endured but began to learn how to thrive, laying the foundation for a life defined by intelligence, courage, and an uncanny sense of timing. The first signs of danger came quietly, almost imperceptibly, yet they left an indelible mark on the young princess. She was barely 9 when whispers began circulating through the corridors of the palace. Courtiers exchanged cryptic glances, attendants spoke in hushed tones, and her parents' advisors grew increasingly anxious. It started with small incidents: a poisoned cup intended for her morning refreshment, a tapestry fraying suspiciously near her bed, a servant who abruptly disappeared after failing to deliver a simple message. At first, she did not fully understand the implications. But the instinct for survival, honed by years of careful observation, told her that these were no accidents. The palace, which had once seemed a sanctuary of wealth and grandeur, transformed into a minefield. Every meal, every interaction, became fraught with peril. A smile could conceal deadly intent. A gift could hide a trap. Courtiers she had trusted suddenly became suspect, their motives ambiguous, their loyalty in question. Even her closest attendants were not immune to scrutiny. Each was evaluated constantly, their reactions analyzed, their movements catalogued. The young princess learned to trust her instincts above all else, to detect the subtle shifts in tone, the slight hesitation in speech, the micro-expressions that revealed unspoken danger. The first overt attempt on her life arrived in the form of a disguised assassin. One evening, under the cover of darkness, a cloaked figure slipped into her quarters. The princess, awakened by the faintest sound, the scrape of a shoe against polished stone, grabbed a nearby dagger, her small hands trembling but precise. When the intruder lunged, she reacted with a speed that belied her years, parrying and escaping to alert the palace guards. The attacker vanished, leaving only a single, ominous message scrawled on the wall. "Not all are safe." The incident sent shockwaves through the court, signaling that the threat was real, organized, and personal. Following this attempt, security around her increased, but the danger never fully disappeared. Poisoned food continued to arrive in subtle ways. Letters containing threats were intercepted too late, and even celebrations became risky undertakings. The princess began to understand the harsh truth. Her life as a royal was inseparable from peril. Each encounter, each misstep, could bring death. Yet she refused to succumb to fear entirely. Instead, she adapted. She learned defensive maneuvers, memorized escape routes, and quietly studied those around her for signs of disloyalty or malice. Despite the relentless tension, she retained an air of innocence that fooled even some seasoned courtiers. Her laughter, her politeness, her charming mannerisms masked the steel that had begun to harden within her. The court underestimated her at their peril, failing to see the keen intelligence and uncanny foresight that had developed under duress. By the age of 10, she had survived multiple assassination attempts, each shaping her resilience, each sharpening her understanding of the deadly environment in which she lived. It was this combination of youthful vigilance, learned cunning, and innate intelligence that ensured her survival. While others might have crumbled under the weight of constant threat, the princess grew stronger, more calculating, and remarkably composed. Every challenge became a lesson, every danger an opportunity to fortify herself. By the time she reached her 11th birthday, she was no longer just a child in the palace. She had become a master of survival, an unlikely strategist navigating a web of betrayal, intrigue, and lethal intent. While assassination attempts tested her physical survival, it was the intricate web of political intrigue that threatened her very position in the royal hierarchy. Courtiers, nobles, and even distant relatives all harbored ambitions, and the young princess was caught at the center of a storm of manipulation and deceit. Every decision made by the king, the queen, or their advisors rippled outward, creating factions that could alternately shield or destroy her. Allies were fleeting, enemies concealed behind polished smiles and empty promises. To navigate this perilous landscape, she had to learn to discern loyalty from self-interest, honesty from deception. At court, whispers carried more weight than proclamations. Rumors spread like wildfire, twisting truths into instruments of power. An innocuous remark could be turned into grounds for arrest. A casual glance could signal conspiracy. The princess watched as alliances shifted overnight, old friends became adversaries, and once trusted advisors plotted in secret chambers. Every dinner, every gathering, every audience with dignitaries became a high-stakes game where one misstep could have fatal consequences. Observing these subtle signals became a daily necessity. Understanding them became the key to survival. Betrayal often came from the most unexpected quarters. Servants whose families had long served the crown suddenly revealed allegiance to rival factions. Courtiers who had offered guidance turned out to be spies, reporting every move to those seeking to manipulate or eliminate her. Even letters she thought private were sometimes intercepted and used as tools of blackmail. The princess learned to question everything, to verify information before acting, and to maintain a stoic exterior while concealing a mind that was constantly calculating, adapting, and predicting the next move. The political stakes extended far beyond the walls of the palace. Neighboring kingdoms saw her youth as an opportunity, sending envoys with veiled threats and promises of protection in exchange for concessions. Diplomacy became a battlefield where words were sharper than swords. Her advisors debated fiercely over treaties, alliances, and marriages, often with her fate hanging in the balance. Through careful observation, she began to anticipate the strategies of foreign powers, understanding that survival required not only navigating internal court politics, but also managing external pressures with subtlety and precision. Despite the constant tension, the princess demonstrated a remarkable ability to turn vulnerability into strength. She used moments of vulnerability to her advantage, feigning ignorance or innocence while secretly gathering intelligence. Her adversaries often underestimated her because of her age and seeming fragility, a mistake that would cost them dearly. By mastering the art of perception, she controlled how others viewed her, masking her strategic acumen behind a facade of childlike charm. Each betrayal, each political maneuver, became a lesson in resilience. By witnessing the consequences of disloyalty and the intricacies of power, she began to develop her own network of allies, trusted confidants who understood the stakes and shared her commitment to survival. Slowly, she transformed from a passive target into an active participant in the deadly game of court politics. By the time she reached her 12th birthday, the princess had become both a survivor and a strategist, capable of maneuvering through intrigue that would have overwhelmed even the most seasoned adult courtiers. Her life was no longer defined merely by the threat of assassination. It was defined by the constant need to outthink, outmaneuver, and outlast those who sought to control or destroy her. Survival, she realized, demanded intellect, patience, and unflinching courage. And in mastering these, she prepared herself for challenges that would test every skill she had painstakingly acquired in the shadows of betrayal. As the young princess navigated the treacherous waters of court politics, she soon discovered that matters of the heart were just as perilous as the intrigues surrounding her. Love, loyalty, and friendship intertwined with danger in ways she could never have anticipated. Courtiers and nobles, drawn to her beauty and status, approached with intentions that were rarely pure. Flattery could mask betrayal, and a whispered promise of affection could conceal a scheme to seize power. Every connection had the potential to become a weapon, and every alliance carried a hidden cost. One of her earliest encounters with forbidden affection came from a noble of distant lineage, whose charm and intelligence initially seemed a respite from the constant tension of court life. Their conversations, often held in secret gardens or quiet corridors, offered moments of humanity and warmth in a world dominated by suspicion and cruelty. Yet, even these stolen moments of connection were fraught with danger. Servants and spies lurked in every shadow, and a single misinterpreted glance could spark rumors powerful enough to destabilize her position. As the princess grew older, her understanding of these dangerous alliances deepened. She recognized that political marriages, once inevitable, could be tools of survival if navigated wisely. By carefully selecting confidants and suitors, she could strengthen her position while also protecting herself from rivals eager to exploit her vulnerabilities. However, the line between trust and manipulation was razor-thin. One misstep, one misplaced word, could turn an ally into an adversary overnight. She had to read motives with precision, discerning true intentions beneath layers of pretense. The court itself became a labyrinth of opportunity and threat. Every gathering, from lavish balls to official ceremonies, presented potential allies and hidden enemies alike. Nobles seeking favor whispered of loyalty while plotting deceit, and the princess learned to listen to tone, watch body language, and interpret even the smallest gestures. She quickly understood that outward appearances rarely reflected the truth. Power, she realized, was not given. It was earned through a careful balance of strategy, subtlety, and observation. Romantic entanglements carried risks that went far beyond personal reputation. Rival factions could exploit even a harmless attachment, twisting it into evidence of impropriety or treason. The princess learned to mask her emotions, presenting a composed exterior while secretly managing the intricate web of connections around her. Her decisions regarding whom to trust and whom to spurn became exercises in tactical foresight, ensuring that every alliance served both her survival and her long-term goals. By embracing these dangerous alliances strategically, she transformed vulnerability into leverage. Her keen understanding of human nature allowed her to manipulate perception and control the narrative of her own life. Those who underestimated her youthful appearance or seemingly delicate demeanor were consistently proven wrong. Each alliance, each carefully navigated interaction, reinforced her resilience and sharpened her ability to maneuver through the deadly politics of the court. Ultimately, the princess learned that survival depended not only on strength and intelligence, but also on her capacity to balance emotion with calculation. Love, she realized, could be a shield, a weapon, or a trap. Mastering this delicate balance prepared her for challenges far greater than assassination attempts or political betrayal. It made her a force to be reckoned with, a young woman capable of commanding influence, navigating treachery, and turning forbidden love into a tool of empowerment rather than vulnerability. The princess's life had already been marked by danger, but nothing compared to the moment when her survival hung by the thinnest of threads. Assassination attempts, carefully orchestrated by those who sought to eliminate her, escalated from whispered threats to direct, tangible attacks. Poisoned meals, collapsing balconies, and shadowed corridors became instruments of a deadly game where every day could be her last. Her senses sharpened beyond normal human capacity. Every footstep, every rustle of fabric, every sudden movement could signal imminent peril. The first attempt came unexpectedly. During a formal banquet, as she reached for a goblet of wine, the subtle taste of bitterness hinted at the treachery hidden in the ornate chalice. Years later, historians would speculate on the poison used, but in that moment, the princess relied not on knowledge, but instinct. She paused, discreetly signaling her closest confidant. The sip never reached her lips, and the would-be assassin, masked by the festivities, was only thwarted by her heightened vigilance. The court erupted in confusion, rumors spreading like wildfire, yet the princess had survived another deadly encounter, her sharp mind keeping her one step ahead. Another attempt tested her physical endurance. A sudden structural failure in the palace, a balcony rigged to collapse, nearly sent her tumbling into the courtyard below. Guards and attendants reacted too late, and it was only her reflexive grasp of a nearby drapery that spared her from certain death. Each narrow escape forced her to adapt, blending careful observation with learned strategies for predicting the movements of those who wished her harm. Over time, survival became less about luck and more about a disciplined mastery of anticipation, reading intentions like an open book. Her understanding of the lethal politics surrounding her evolved. She began to study her enemies as if they were puzzles, each gesture and word providing crucial insight. She discovered patterns, weaknesses, and predictable impulses. She learned to use deception herself, planting misinformation and orchestrating feints to confuse would-be killers. Allies were carefully vetted, and loyalty was rewarded but constantly tested. She created a network of loyalists, spies, and informants who ensured that attempts on her life were revealed before they could reach fruition. The mental strain of living under constant threat was immense. Nights were restless, filled with vivid dreams of betrayal and death. Yet, she transformed fear into a weapon, using it to sharpen her instincts and strengthen her resolve. Every narrow escape reinforced the knowledge that vulnerability invited disaster. She became adept at disguising emotions, showing calmness even when panic threatened to consume her. To survive in the court's treacherous environment, she had to maintain the illusion of composure while her mind raced with contingency plans for every possible attack. By the time she reached her teenage years, the princess had become a master of survival. Each life-threatening encounter honed her reflexes, judgment, and strategic thinking. What once seemed like cruel fate became a crucible forging resilience and resourcefulness. In a court filled with intrigue, treachery, and hidden daggers, she learned that survival depended on blending courage, intelligence, and relentless vigilance. Her survival against impossible odds was not merely a testament to luck. It was proof of her indomitable spirit, a young royal learning to navigate the deadliest of games with skill, foresight, and unyielding determination. In the gilded halls of the royal palace, loyalty was a fragile illusion, and trust could be deadly. For the young princess, every smile could mask treachery, and every whisper might carry hidden intentions. Those closest to her, advisors, attendants, and even family members, could be swayed by ambition, fear, or envy. The court was a minefield of shifting alliances, where a single misstep could turn a friend into a silent executioner. To navigate this dangerous world, she needed more than caution. She required a sixth sense for deception. The first betrayal came unexpectedly. A trusted tutor, the one who had guided her through lessons in diplomacy and etiquette, was discovered passing secret letters to a rival faction. The letters contained intricate plans aimed at undermining her position, weakening her authority, and leaving her vulnerable to political attacks. The princess, still in her early teens, realized that knowledge alone was insufficient. Vigilance and quick thinking were paramount. She confronted the tutor with calm authority, revealing evidence in a way that neutralized the threat without causing unnecessary alarm in the court. Her composure sent a powerful message. Betrayal would not be tolerated, and those who sought to deceive her would pay dearly. Not all betrayals were so easy to uncover. Some were subtle, woven into everyday interactions. Courtiers would offer advice that seemed helpful but contained hidden manipulations, designed to push her into compromise or force errors. Servants, bribed or coerced, might misplace important documents, delay messages, or report false information. Every action within the palace walls had to be scrutinized, every gesture analyzed for hidden meaning. Trust became a strategic resource, rationed carefully, extended only when evidence of loyalty was undeniable. The princess also learned to weaponize perception. She cultivated an image of vulnerability in certain quarters, luring ambitious courtiers into making mistakes while remaining in control. Feigned ignorance and deliberate missteps allowed her to expose plots before they reached critical stages. These calculated moves required patience and precision, transforming fear into a tool for outmaneuvering adversaries. In a court where appearances were everything, the ability to manipulate perception became as vital as physical survival. Mental resilience was tested daily. The knowledge that betrayal could come from any direction instilled a constant tension, a relentless awareness of danger. Yet, it also forged a sharper intellect and strategic acumen. Each exposed plot reinforced her ability to anticipate deceit and act preemptively. She became adept at reading subtle signs, a fleeting glance, a hesitation, a tone of voice. These cues revealed intentions that words alone might conceal. By the time she entered her later teenage years, the princess had transformed mistrust into mastery. Betrayal, once a source of fear, became a catalyst for strength. She navigated the labyrinth of court intrigue with intelligence, patience, and calculated boldness. Each act of treachery she survived added to her reputation as not only a royal figure, but a strategist of unmatched skill. In a palace where loyalty was a gamble and betrayal was inevitable, she emerged as a survivor, capable of turning deception into advantage and danger into opportunity. Amid the treacherous corridors of the palace, alliances could save a life or seal a fate. For the young princess, every relationship was a calculated decision, each friendship weighed against potential danger. Love was especially perilous, for the heart could betray as easily as the tongue. Courtiers with charming smiles often hid ruthless ambition, and even family members could exploit affection for political gain. She learned early that emotions, however genuine, had to be measured against survival and influence. One of the earliest lessons came through an arranged alliance with a foreign noble. The prince, elegant and seemingly trustworthy, was introduced under the guise of friendship and mutual respect. Initial interactions were cordial. Shared meals and public appearances gave the impression of harmony. Yet behind the polished exterior, spies whispered that the prince's court sought leverage within her kingdom, aiming to manipulate her decisions subtly. The princess, recognizing the hidden motives, navigated the relationship carefully. Public displays of camaraderie masked private vigilance, ensuring that any misstep on the prince's part could be used to her advantage rather than her detriment. Romantic feelings were even more complicated. A fleeting attraction to a young nobleman became a source of both solace and peril. The emotional warmth provided a rare respite from the relentless pressures of court life, yet it also introduced vulnerability. Whispers of their connection spread quickly, threatening to provide rivals with ammunition to question her judgment. The princess had to balance genuine human emotion with strategic prudence, embracing moments of closeness while remaining ever aware that perception could become power. Her ability to conceal and control sentiment became as crucial as her diplomatic skill, a testament to her growing mastery over the court's complex social web. Alliances were not limited to love or family. Political partnerships formed the backbone of her influence, requiring subtle negotiation, patience, and timing. She aligned herself with those who could provide counsel, protection, or leverage, yet she avoided overt dependence. Over-reliance could invite resentment or suspicion, while underestimating allies might leave her exposed. Her growing reputation as both discerning and cautious allowed her to select partners who were both competent and loyal, or at least motivated by their own survival to remain so. Risk was constant. Any alliance, however carefully constructed, could fracture under pressure, and betrayal lurked even in seemingly secure relationships. The princess learned to diversify her network, creating overlapping spheres of support to buffer against individual collapses. Each partnership became a calculated investment, designed to maximize influence while minimizing vulnerability. Through these trials, the princess honed her ability to turn potential threats into opportunities. She discovered that alliances, when managed with foresight and intelligence, could serve not only as shields against danger, but as instruments of power. In a court where trust was scarce and betrayal commonplace, her understanding of human motives became a decisive advantage. By balancing heart, mind, and political instinct, she transformed the labyrinth of relationships into a network of strength, securing her place within a world that sought to undermine her at every turn. In the shadowed halls of the palace, danger was never far. Every whispered conversation, every shadowed corridor, carried the potential for betrayal. The young princess learned quickly that survival required more than intelligence. It demanded constant vigilance, an instinct honed by fear and necessity. From the earliest days, assassination attempts became an unrelenting reality. Courtiers loyal to rival factions, foreign emissaries with hidden agendas, and even distant relatives driven by ambition conspired against her, seeking to end her life or manipulate her position for personal gain. One of the first attacks occurred during a seemingly routine evening stroll through the palace gardens. The air was crisp, the scent of jasmine masking the tension beneath. A cloaked figure emerged from the shadows, dagger glinting in the moonlight. The princess, trained to recognize danger even in moments of apparent peace, reacted instantly. A subtle shift in posture, a step aside, and the blade narrowly missed its mark. Courtiers, alerted by the struggle, captured the would-be assassin, revealing connections to a faction she had long distrusted. The event was a stark reminder. Even familiar faces could conceal deadly intentions. Not all threats were so direct. Poison, subtle and invisible, became a preferred tool of those seeking to weaken her. Meals were scrutinized with suspicion, every cup of wine, every morsel of food tested and observed. Trusted attendants rotated constantly, their loyalty verified through careful observation and discreet questioning. The princess became adept at reading the smallest signs of treachery: hesitation in a servant's gaze, the tremor of a hand offering a dish, the fleeting glance exchanged in the hallway. Each detail could mean the difference between life and death. Political maneuvering often masked lethal intent. Rival nobles used diplomacy, charm, and influence as weapons, pushing allies and courtiers to orchestrate plots that could destabilize her rule. The princess learned to maintain multiple layers of defense, a network of loyal advisors, secret escape routes, and contingency plans for any scenario. She studied her enemies' movements, predicting actions before they could unfold, turning knowledge into protection. Even within her own family, threats simmered quietly. Sibling rivalry, inheritance disputes, and the desire for power fueled subtle attempts at sabotage. Gifts could hide poison, letters might carry coded threats, seemingly innocent requests concealed traps. The princess's survival depended on vigilance, discernment, and the ability to act decisively. Over time, she became both hunter and hunted, navigating the treacherous landscape with skill that often exceeded even her adversaries' expectations. Every escape reinforced her resilience. Narrowly surviving an ambush, uncovering a hidden plot, or turning an enemy's plan against them became a testament to her strategic mind. Each incident strengthened her reputation. Courtiers learned to respect her judgment, enemies began to fear her awareness, and her ability to survive against overwhelming odds became legendary. The princess understood that danger was a constant companion, yet she refused to be paralyzed by fear. In a world where death and deceit were omnipresent, her cunning and courage became her armor. The palace. By mastering the art of survival, she not only evaded assassins but gained control over the very forces that sought her destruction, turning the perilous game of court intrigue into her proving ground. The aftermath of forbidden unions left scars far beyond the immediate palace walls. The emperor's marriages to his sisters were more than shocking scandals. They were acts that altered the bloodline, the succession, and the very perception of imperial power. His decisions, both intimate and political, rippled through generations, shaping the destinies of heirs and challengers alike. Every child born from these unions carried the weight of secrecy, the mark of taboo, and the hidden consequences of royal obsession with purity of lineage. Historians later struggled to reconcile the official records with whispered accounts from courtiers, scribes, and visiting diplomats. Publicly, the emperor was celebrated for consolidating power and expanding territories, yet beneath the surface, his family navigated a labyrinth of tension, jealousy, and suspicion. The court became a theater of controlled appearances, where smiles masked anxiety, and alliances could shift at a moment's notice. The emperor's children learned early that survival meant mastering not just politics, but perception itself. The genetic consequences of these unions became a subtle, yet persistent, shadow. Observers noted peculiarities in appearance, health vulnerabilities, and unusual behaviors among certain heirs. While chroniclers of the time avoided directly attributing these traits to the incestuous marriages, modern forensic and historical analysis suggest a correlation that cannot be ignored. The emperor's obsession with consolidating power through bloodline purity ultimately created both fascination and fear in the generations that followed. Beyond biology, the cultural impact was profound. Foreign emissaries whispered about the emperor's unconventional family dynamics, spreading tales that mixed horror, curiosity, and awe. Political rivals leveraged these rumors to undermine alliances and provoke unrest. Within the empire, subjects debated morality, loyalty, and obedience, questioning the emperor's right to dictate both the public and private realms of life. The tension between divine authority and human fallibility became an unspoken undercurrent in every courtly decision. Yet, amid scandal and secrecy, there emerged resilience. Certain heirs, aware of the shadow cast by their parentage, cultivated extraordinary skills, intellect, and diplomacy to assert legitimacy. They navigated treacherous waters with cunning, turning potential stigma into strategic advantage. Lessons in vigilance, secrecy, and political acumen passed from one generation to the next, creating a lineage as capable in intrigue as it was bound by taboo. The emperor's story, preserved through chronicles, letters, and clandestine memoirs, became a cautionary tale, a narrative of power intertwined with obsession, of love corrupted by ambition, and of the enduring consequences of choices made in secrecy. His reign, though marked by achievement, remained forever haunted by the personal and political costs of forbidden marriages. The dynasty he forged carried both the glory of conquest and the shadow of scandal, a dual legacy that shaped the empire's trajectory for centuries. In the end, the emperor's life was not just a tale of audacious power. It was a complex chronicle of human frailty, ambition, and the enduring weight of choices made behind closed doors. The forbidden marriages, shocking to contemporaries and historians alike, ensured that every generation would grapple with questions of morality, survival, and the enduring consequences of secrets too dangerous to speak aloud. The story of this dynasty is not merely history. It is a testament to the enduring tension between desire, duty, and destiny, echoing through centuries as a haunting reminder of what power can demand and what it can destroy.